Hey, what's up everybody, Serenity here, and today I'm finally bringing you my IQ guide, so let's get into it. On IQ, you have 3 viable main weapons. You have the AUG-A2, the 5.52 Commando, and the G8A1, aka the side grip. So on the AUG-A2, I would recommend using the Holo or the ACOG, the flash hider because the flash hider and the compensator has the same recoil, and obviously no laser sight. On the 5.52, I would recommend using the Holo or the ACOG, the flash hider because the compensator and the flash hider has the same recoil, and again the grip and no laser sight. Now, the side grip is very different from the other weapons. The animation to aim down sight is extremely long, and so most of the time you want to keep aiming down sight even if you don't see anyone. That being said, just imagine having the ACOG at all time. I mean, it's really annoying to use on this gun, so yeah, I prefer using the holo sight. I tried the ACOG and you'll see it's really awkward to use. Another thing that's interesting with this weapon is that the flash hider and the suppressor has the same recoil, which makes the suppressor viable. So yeah, if you're going for headshots at all time and you know you're flanking with IQ, I would try the suppressor. I personally tried both and I kind of prefer the flash hider. You only have one sidearm and it's the P12. It's actually quite a good pistol. You really want to use the suppressor here because you're going to be shooting through smoke grenades a lot with IQ, and so obviously the suppressor will help you stay hidden through those. And to be honest, there's no big drawback to use the suppressor here because since you're going to be shooting through smoke grenades a lot, you have a lot of time to aim for the head. When you're not shooting through smoke grenades, you're often going to be shooting people that are down, and so one bullet is going to get the job done anyway. In the gadget category, you have the breaching charges and the stun grenades. Now that really depends on your plan and playstyle. In general, if you're going to be roaming a lot, you want to use the breaching charges, and if you plan on staying with the team, you want to use the stun grenades. And to finish off the loadout, you have low armor and high mobility, which makes IQ very mobile, thus a good flanker. IQ's special ability is basically a little blue screen that she pops up and she sees electronic gadgets. So you know, Capcan straps, Blitz's shield, nitro cells, the bombs, the biohazard, and so on. It's honestly more or less useful because, you know, if you're going to be breaching a room, just throw an EMP grenade close to it and all the gadgets will be destroyed. Knowing where they are is kind of useless information. What makes this gadget useful is that you can see right through smoke grenades with it. That's useful in very specific situations. It works very rarely because of multiple reasons. The first one being that smoke grenades have a random pattern and they are client-sided, which means that the smoke that you see is not the smoke that the other player sees. So on your screen, you might be completely hidden when you're absolutely not. That's really annoying and needs to be addressed by Ubisoft. The second reason is that sometimes IQ literally announces that she'll be using her gadget by screaming something like scanning for electronic gadgets. If it's running on batteries, I'll see it. And like, that's going to trigger the enemy team to spray in the middle of the smoke, which is where you have to be standing because they are client-sided. And the third reason is that most good teams will see it coming from miles away and they won't let you do that. They'll just use suppressive fire and get you out of there. When it does work, however, it's extremely rewarding and satisfying, but I'm afraid these moments are few and far between. IQ's special ability is very good to counter pulse, as you can see him when he uses his heartbeat sensor. You can then try to shoot through the wall, ceiling, or just pre-fire him. Let's talk about IQ and her playstyle. She has high mobility and good guns, making her a very good flanker. Now, I think that her having 3 good guns is a little bit overhyped. Having 1 good gun is almost just as good as having 3 of them. The only difference being that since you can't switch attachments mid-game, you can set up one gun with silencer, the other ones without, or something like one with an ACOG sight and the others with holo sights, and so on. Now, that flexibility is something that no other operator has, so if you're very picky with changing your optics depending on the map, IQ could be a great choice. Now, personally for me, it's not that big of a deal, so it's not a game changer, but like I said, for other people it might be. Here's some gameplay with the AUG, and I kind of like this weapon. The only thing is that I like to use ACOG sights as much as possible, and on this weapon it's very hard to use it because it has so much kick to it, so I had to use a holo sight on this one. So the AUG would be very good in close range firefights as the recoil is not that big of a deal in those. Here's some gameplay with the side grip. I saw a lot of very good players use it with a silencer, so I tried it out. And honestly, I like the silencer, but the ACOG is just way too much. It takes too much time to aim down sight, and so the ACOG is just in the way. I prefer the holo sight, and I stay ADS almost all the time. This one's very good for slower paced fights, and if you flank a big group of enemies, you'll be able to take them all out with 50 bullets in the mag. And like I said earlier, because it takes so much time to aim down sight, don't run and gun with it. And my favorite gun is the 5.52 Commando. Now, the gun is not the most stable gun in the world, but the recoil is very predictable, so it's easy to compensate for. I also really like this weapon because you can put whatever optic you want on it. So that's it for the weapons, just set them differently and so you'll be ready for every map in the game. Like I said earlier, IQ is pretty good at flanking because she has high mobility, and the good guns will allow you to win a lot of 1v1 situations. You can also use your special ability to navigate the map a little easier. For example, if you see a lot of gadgets in a room, they're most likely likely there for a reason, and so there's probably someone in there. So that's the way I use it. I try to gauge the amount of people that are going to be in the room by, you know, the amount of gadgets that are in there, and I found the correlation to be pretty high. You just have to be careful and always have cover while you're doing that, because you're very vulnerable, as IQ sometimes literally screams that she's using her special ability. So like, I would recommend doing this when you're above or below a room. IQ can also be played with the main group to act as reinforcement when and where needed. Just make sure to try and stay away from the front line, because yes, you do have a lot of firepower, but you drop very quickly. Alright, well that wraps it up. So in conclusion, IQ actually is a viable operator. She's a good flanker and a very good counter to Pulse. She would be a good choice if you're picky about changing optics depending on the map you're playing on. Use her special ability to gauge how many people are in a room by scanning the amount of gadgets there is. If the enemy team is stacked up and secure in a room, just use the smoke grenades to hide and pick them off one by one with the pistol. When you do that, just remember to not go at the edges of the smoke, because the smoke that you see is not the smoke that the enemy team is seeing. Oh, and also, just make sure every time you start to use her special ability, you're far away from the enemy team, because sometimes she will announce it very loudly, giving away your position. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my videos. I'll try to make more analysis videos, as you guys seem to like the first one a lot, and yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. What I have to do is get behind him. And it's at that moment that I realized that at the beginning of the round, I had destroyed the door on the left. Now, because the door is destroyed, he won't hear me flanking him. This is my only chance and I need to go for it right away. Not much of a reaction coming from my teammates, but that's normal. We were all really nervous. Sometimes I see people put one jammer right in the middle thinking that it's going to jam both walls. But if the enemy thermite knows what he's doing, he's going to place a charge at the very end of the wall and he will be able to detonate it. On small reinforcement walls, however, you can use one jammer to secure two walls. That's because they're small enough that even if thermite puts the charge at the very end of the wall, your jammer is still in range.